You know, it's odd when you go to university. I read sociology at university, knowing I was never going to be a sociologist, but just to get a degree in order to do television. And that wasn't enough, so I went to another university where I did an MPhil, and it was vaguely connected with television, and it still wasn't enough, because at those days the BBC had this policy that if you didn't go to Oxford and Cambridge, then they didn't want to know. And I went to neither of those places. So I then went and did a third, ridiculously so, a third degree at Bristol University, which was a certificate, postgraduate certificate in radio, film and television. And I thought, radio, film and television. BBC, I've got a certificate in television. Did you hear that? Television. And they said, nope, sorry, it's still not enough experience. We like people who... So I just battered on the door to get in. I started right at the bottom of the BBC, and then I worked my way up.
It's through connections, actually. So there was a friend of my mother's who knew somebody who was basically starting a TV channel in Pakistan, and they were looking for people from here with kind of media training who could help them start it off. And the reason why I took the job, or the reason that I went, because the money was crap, was basically because it afforded me to do something that I would not be able to do here. So, you know, basically I went there and I said, I want to direct TV shows. And they were like, here you are, here's a show, direct it. And that would never happen in England. You know, you'd have to work up as being a runner, then a production assistant, and sort of work your way up like that. And the main reason that I decided, okay, I'm going to move to Pakistan and I'll take this job, was basically because I thought, okay, I'm going to get an opportunity that I'm not going to get in Britain for at least another 10 years. So you wouldn't get, you know, I was 23, so you wouldn't get a 23-year-old directing big TV programs probably straight away out of uni. And I think that's what kind of attracted me to it.
I saw a guy on the bus, recognized him from so many shows, probably thought I was a stalker because I could list all of them. And then he said, I go to this place every week. And I went to that agency and then they signed me.
So how time-consuming was my job and how did it affect my life? It affected my life completely. I had no life. I worked 6 days a week. The only good thing was that mostly I started quite late, so I didn't go in at sort of 8 a.m. Most of the TV shows and things sort of started sort of in the kind of late morning, afternoon. So that was the only good thing. But I literally had no life.
If you really want to be a TV director, it's a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week job. You live and breathe what you want to do. You think about it when you wake up. You think about it when you go to sleep, and I think you even dream about it. It's something that you can't just dip your toe in and do a little bit of. You have to immerse yourself, because the thing is, you have to stamp yourself on this production and do it the way you want to do it. And so it is completely self-consuming. You have to be obsessed by it. And then when you go and edit, you have to worry about the most tiny details to make sure that the cut comes here. And if we move it a few frames earlier, what is the effect of moving it a few frames earlier? And when you go to the dub, you have to know, what effect does this sound effect have? And when you go to the grade, does it need this, that and the other? You need to be obsessed, but you need to know across all those fields what you're doing.
I remember doing a job, a theatre and education piece, and I said to them at the end, well, what happens to all the set? And they said, oh, we throw that. And I did remember thinking, oh, wow, that's a waste. But then there's also a lot of recycling. So I was in a TV show called Tricks and Flipside. It was a comedy series on BBC Three. And I wore costume in that show that Lenny Henry wore in the late 80s.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, I think in terms of, it depends. I'm not an expert on this area, but I think in terms of costume, a lot more recycling goes on than you would think. Actually, I mean, obviously, as fashion changes, you have to keep
up to date.
Yeah,
for
but
sure.
also it gets recycled another way, because I've still got jeans that I've got because I was in a TV program and they let me keep it.
One of the things that is sustainable in terms of a media career is that as long as you're willing to constantly retrain and redo stuff and learn new things, because I think whether it's TV industry or film industry or radio, everything changes all the time. It doesn't change dramatically overnight, but it takes a couple of years and then it's completely different.